You're plotting a new course again, aren't you?
The currents before us are ever-changing. We must adapt and press forward if we are to see our journey's end.
And how will we know when we get there?
It's been 6 years since the last main game in the Civilization franchise, a long time between conquering.
Yes, and a part of the reason for that might be that Civ 5 is still such a good game that only got better with each update. Fans of Civilization are big fans, kind of like how fans of JRPGs are really into JRPGs.
Yeah, you can't really just dip your toe into this, and Civ 6 is a big deal. It brings about some of the biggest changes to the series yet.
Back over the past, with its changing empires that rose and fell.
And so we've, what would you say, waded in about waist deep?
Yeah, just up to here actually, where it starts to get serious.
Yeah, I mean, it takes sort of dozens of hours and game after game before you can really come to grips with this.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the first PC game I ever played was Civilization, so it has a lot of nostalgia for me. But this particular Civ, I feel like I'm relearning the entire game again, which is stressful, but also really great. The newest and most complicated mechanic is districts. Developer Firaxis have made the bold decision to pull out a lot of the structures that would just build within your city centre and force you to physically place them on the map. This is actually a really big deal. And you can only have one of each kind of district in a city.
Yeah, but if you just plonk down every district you can, you forfeit land, and thus resources. And this could potentially make your city less productive in the long term and limit some options while opening up new ones. There's a lot to consider, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the intention with these districts is to force you to specialise with each city, rather than just having a whole bunch of clones. I think what they're trying to do is get rid of ICS, Infinite City Spread, which was a valid way to win in previous games, but this is far more interesting.
Yeah, and I think districts are a natural evolution to the game, and where you place them in your city matters too. You'll want to put commercial districts near rivers, for example, for bonuses. Districts are permanent though, so you have to live with your decisions.
Yeah, it's really nice seeing your city spread out like this visually. And the whole game has a lovely Lego-like, delightful pop to it now as you place things down and move units about. I read an article that compared this art style to a board game now, and that is so accurate. I totally agree with that. It's a delightful game. It's a delight to look at and a delight to play.
Yeah, this one really appeals to me visually. Just the way it all feels, that kind of tactile bitsiness of it.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other big changes is you don't have to worry about happiness so much. The happiness mechanic of the last game has kind of been turned into amenities, where you just need to have enough housing and certain structures to keep your city growing.
Everything here appears calculated to inspire kind and happy feelings.
And this is such a great change, because I felt like with Civ 5, I was always struggling to keep my civilians happy, and that distracted me from the fun stuff.
Yeah, but keeping the leaders happy, that's another thing entirely. Now, each leader has their own agenda. They have their own goals as opposed to the AI in previous games where they all kind of just played the same.
Yeah, it never felt right seeing Gandhi let off a nuke.
Yeah, that said, I wouldn't say the AI is necessarily any better or worse. They still seem to behave strangely at times, loving you one minute, then declaring war the next. But they're definitely more interesting to play against.
Yeah. Another thing I really liked was the new war system.
We are, by the grace of God, Victoria, Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland.
So in my first playthrough, England was so upset that I settled near them. They just kept going to war with me. Constant. We could never be friends.
As our protests are in vain, we hereby declare war. War? We are not amused.
It upset the other leaders so much that it really set back my civilization's progress.
Yeah, it can be very tempting to just wipe out little cities nearby, but there are diplomatic consequences if you get labelled a warmonger.
But now, with the new war system, you can actually argue different reasons to go to war so you don't get such a penalty. The casus belli system basically means you can now justify war to the other leaders and have little, or I think in some cases, have no penalty for declaring war on another leader, if you have a good reason.
Another change is that you don't have to build roads, which is fantastic. When you open a trade route, it automatically builds a road. You can upgrade your land with builder units, but they'll also disappear after a while, so you have to make good use of them.
I might be imagining this, but I felt like moving units around the map was a little bit slower, but I didn't really mind that. The combat is still strategic and the fighting is rich and beautiful to watch, plus there are ways to speed up animations. However, I turned some of those animations off pretty quick because barbarians are total bastards now.
Yeah, they're much more aggressive, aren't they? And they're always building little camps. And if you leave them be and don't take care of the problem, they start sending some pretty advanced units to mess you up.
Oh, the number of times I've just been happily building a little undefended city and a whole army of barbarians just rock up.
We have discovered a city-state. Establishing diplomatic relations with them will surely be beneficial for our empire.
City-states also feel more involved in the strategy of the game now. You can't just throw money at them now to win them over, you have to use an envoy system. And to be honest, I haven't quite got my head around that yet because I've spent most of my time fighting the Queen of England and barbarians with cannons. Cannons, hex!
Yeah, I mean, overall, this is a much more refined and specialized Civ game. It makes you really stop and think hard about what you want each city's purpose to be. But I also think it's more impenetrable because of that, and the tutorial was unusually basic.
As your personal advisor, I am qualified to assist you in all matters related to ruling our civilization.
Yeah, that was surprising. I think newcomers and maybe even oldcomers to this series may find it difficult getting to grips with the finer points of this game, but that's also half the fun. This is kind of like a big puzzle with so much to put together. It's a mess and you need to find the most logical way through it.
There are three things extremely hard: steel, a diamond, and to know oneself.
And it's definitely worth seeking out some strategy guides to get a leg up. That really helped me.
And look, there's so much about this game we haven't covered yet. Like the religion and political systems, and how civics has its own tech tree, and there are all these wonderful bonus cards to place down depending on what kind of government you have. And once again, putting down those cards makes it feel a bit more like a board game. But we should wrap this up. What are you going to give it, Budjo?
I think time will tell as to whether all of these changes play out as intended. Just a note that we couldn't check out the multiplayer because there were no matches. I think everyone's still getting to grips with the single player.
Yeah.
I'm going to give this 4 out of 5. I think it's great. I'm having a good time so far.
Yeah, it's an exceptionally well thought out game, and I think it's going to be around for a long time. I'm giving it 4 out of 5 as well.
From the height of these pyramids, 40 centuries look down on us.